Have you noticed that everyone is wearing wired earphones all of a sudden?
These are wired headphones.
I have officially gone back to my wired headphones.
I like wired headphones because I don't have to charge them.
It's just a charging hazard for me.
I am a big fan of wired headphones.
A few days ago, I walked into the store and I bought these wired earphones, which was quite surprising for me because I never thought that a time would ever come again where I would walk into the store and voluntarily buy these again, because for such a very long time, these were seen as not being cool. That was what this meant. And if you saw somebody on the street walking down or walking around with this, you just probably thought that they hadn't just upgraded yet to the AirPods lifestyle. And people would wonder, why are you still walking around with this when everyone else uses an AirPod? I remember wanting one of those AirPods when it newly came out, and I finally got one. But now, look at me. I've switched back to the wired earphones. And apparently, I'm not the only one. Drake wears them, Bella Hadid wears them, Harry Sung wears them, Lily Rose wears them, Zendaya wears them, Ariana Grande also wears them. This thing here is something that has managed to go from something that was viewed as not so cool to being so cool again. So, how did that all happen? Why are we now going backwards? Before AirPods, wired earphones have always been a thing. That's how people listen to their music. You get your phone, you simply plug it in, and that was it. There was no need for Bluetooth connection. There was no need for a charging case to charge them because they're wired. And then wireless headphones started to pop out from here and there. And it became the standard, and it became the default too as well. And Apple really changed the game. In 2016, Apple introduced the AirPods alongside the iPhone 7, which Apple then removed the 3.5mm headphone jack from the iPhone that had been there for decades. Apple was clearly moving towards a wireless future, and AirPods were part of that future that Apple was building. When AirPods launched in Canada, they cost around $219, which, let's be honest, it's a lot of money to spend for something that you could easily lose. But people bought them anyways because, of course, they wanted to look cool. And that is how it kind of creeped into our lifestyle, and wireless earbuds became a norm. So where did all the wired earphones go when all of this was happening? Well, they didn't just disappear overnight. Phones stopped including headphone jack. Other major smartphone manufacturers also followed what Apple did. And suddenly, if you bought a new phone, you could no longer put in your old AirPods or AirBuds, There's a lot of name people call these things. You can no longer plug it into your phone and listen to music. Wireless again became so convenient, and that was what people preferred. And then manufacturers had another reason to start to sell people wireless products. Wireless earbuds became, so popular that it came with lots of features like noise cancellation, and it was no longer a tool used for just listening to music. It became a piece of technology. And companies took advantage of that, and they started releasing new series of what used to just be an instrument for listening to music. And just like the iPhone culture, it became a thing, and people wanted newer models every year. All of a sudden, something weird happened. People started going back. In 2025, wired headphone sales in the US reportedly grew by 3% after 5 consecutive years of a decline. In the first 6 weeks of 2025, wired headphones revenue reportedly jumped by 20%. That is not just somebody on TikTok saying wired earphones sales are exploding or wired earphones are back.
Wired sales globally have been tanking every year for the last half a decade, but then 2026 hit, and now they're exploding.
People were actually starting to buy them, and even celebrities also jumped on that. And that is very important because celebrities have played a huge role in building a lifestyle, in building culture, especially fashion and trend.
Wired headphones, love it. I only use wired headphones. I mean, I had non-wired headphones and I kept losing them, and I just like my wired ones. I like wired headphones because I don't have to charge them. It's just one less thing to charge. I feel like there's just cables everywhere, and there's cables everywhere, but in a different way.
Think about Beats headphones for a second. When celebrities and athletes started wearing those headphones, it became so popular and it became part of lifestyle. That's the same thing that happened with wired earphones. The wire is no longer all of a sudden necessarily something that people were trying to hide anymore like they did a few years ago. It became part of the new look and the new aesthetic. But why is all of this happening? Well, I think there are a few things that we can blame in a good or in a bad way. The first one is nostalgia.
Let's talk about why Gen Z loves the early 2000s so much, because honestly, I feel like a lot of us are still chasing the feeling of nostalgia that only that decade could produce.
We are in a weird time or in a moment where people are now starting to look at things that were from our past as cool again, like digital camera, flip phones, vinyl record, MP3 players, even old video games. Even the aesthetic of technology from the 2000s and the early 2010s have been making a comeback. They're having a moment now. And wired earphones plays perfectly into all of this. For younger people who didn't necessarily experience that era the same way some of us did, it feels retro to them. And for people like me who experience all of that, it feels like nostalgia. And it's the same reason why you see somebody might want to get an old digital camera instead of using their phone to take photos, which could take better photos, I bet you. And I also think people are no longer wanting to have newer technology anymore. They are starting to feel, like I said, this sense of nostalgia. And when you think about the cost of updating your new technologies, it's a lot. But it could also be that people just maybe preferred wired earbuds to the wireless because of its advantages. Let's talk about what the obvious advantages are, of course. First, you don't have to charge them. That is just the easiest one. This might actually be my favorite thing. You can walk into any place, listen to music without having to worry, oh, I need to charge this before it dies. That's not a thing. There's no charging case. There's nothing like, oh my God, I forgot to charge my AirPods. That doesn't happen with wired. And I think that's why people love it. That's why I love it. According to a Sikana data cited in recent reportings, wired headphones average around $13 in 2025 compared to around $99 for Bluetooth headphones. That's a huge difference, and that's your answer right there. And if you are somebody who feels or you feel like you lose your devices pretty easy, you know what the answer is. The wired, because you cannot easily lose a wired. It's possible, but very rare, like those earbuds. With wireless AirPods, losing one can be extremely annoying because if you lose one, you have to end up replacing both ears, which cost a lot of money. And also there is the battery life, which is another thing that we cannot skip. Wireless earbuds have batteries, and those batteries need to be charged, and they also eventually degrade. Wired earphones don't have that particular problem, like I said earlier. Wired earphones are not also perfect because it seems like we've been glazing wired earphones. They're not always the best because I don't want this video to turn into pretending that wired earphones are superior all of a sudden. They are not. That's why people switched before. The biggest problem with wired is that it gets tangled up in your bag or wherever you keep them. It gets caught up in things which can be pretty annoying. And if you're exercising or running or moving, they are probably not the best for you. They're not convenient because they start to fall out. Wireless earphone may be preferable to people because it gives you features like noise cancellation, transparency mode, touch controls, and voice assistant, which I think is why there's a group of people who actually love them. And some wireless headphones sound absolutely incredible, I cannot lie. And if you're asking me which one is better, wireless or wired, honestly, there is no straight answer. The answer is it depends on what you're buying them for. So let's look at the wired versus the wireless. If you want convenience, well, I think the answer is wireless. If you want something very simple, not a lot of stress, I would say wired here wins. If you hate charging, of course you know what the answer is, wired. And if you're working out, maybe let's say you're running, you're jogging, or whatever the case may be, of course, wireless. And if you are on a budget, maybe you're a student, wired. And if you want advanced features like active noise cancellation and the rest, wireless usually wins in this category. It always wins, I'm just gonna say. If you're traveling and you don't want to worry about battery, which is a big deal, trust me, unless you wouldn't realize until you are in that situation. So I would say wired is the best option. So why did we ever think that wired earphones were an embarrassment? I think the answer is classism. It's just the shortest answer, and I'm not going to explain. Even with the return of wired earphones, I don't think AirPods are going to go anywhere. I don't think they're going to die because people who switched to them switched for a reason, which is still valid. Wireless is still incredible convenient. And for a lot of people, they are going to remain a better option. I think what's changing is that people are no longer going to see wired earphones as embarrassing anymore because they are becoming another choice like it has always been. Thanks so much for watching. And I'm curious, did any of you guys switch from Bluetooth or the wireless to the wired? Like me? Let me know in the comments and tell me why you switched. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.